It's that time, Phil Buffs. This is Straight Shooter. Welcome to my shooting home, Team Sound Studios. And today I'm going to be doing a spoiler review of the newest MCU movie, Spider-Man Far From Home. Yes, that's right. This is the 1, 2, 3 in Raimi, two Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming, and if you count the animated movie, that's 7, so this is the 8th Spider-Man movie in theaters. And I've seen every one in theaters. This one is directed by the same guy that did Homecoming, John Watts. It's still part of the MCU because you have Nick Fury in there, you have Maria Hill in there, you're still dealing with S.H.I.E.L.D., you're dealing with the aftermath of Endgame, which, if you don't know the ending of Endgame by now, you probably are living under a rock. And you probably shouldn't see Spider-Man until you have seen Endgame, because Spider-Man pretty much spoils the fact that, okay, last warning, have you seen Endgame? If not, stop right here. Otherwise, go. Tony Stark dies. So this movie deals with the aftermath of that. They're basically looking for someone to take up the helm of being Iron Man again. Not necessarily be Iron Man, but be Iron Man in the capacity that he's the leader of the Avengers, he's the symbol of the Avengers, whatever you want to call it. So Spider-Man goes on vacation to Europe, and he wants to not do anything Spider-Man related, but of course there's an attack in Europe and he has to help, and he meets Mysterio, and one thing that I really liked about the setup for Mysterio was the fact that in the beginning, like, there were some really cool bonding moments between Peter and Quentin Beck. They did it really well because you kind of rooted for them to be like in a buddy movie. After seeing the first half of this movie, I would totally be sold on Mysterio and Spider-Man buddy cop movie, whatever you want to call it, like if they teamed up together. But then, of course, the reveal happens, and Mysterio is deceiving him the whole time. He's the one that's creating the illusions of the elementals that are attacking and destroying parts of the earth, and it's all a ruse. It's really cool the way they do it, because when Spider-Man finds out and he starts going after Mysterio, there's all these visuals that come straight out of the comic book. Like, you see an army of Mysterios, you see Mysterio being a giant, you see all these scenarios that he's setting up that Peter is seeing that look very realistic, but it's still an illusion. And you find out that how that started is he created the protocol that Iron Man was using when he was doing the therapy session in Civil War, that was created by Quentin Beck. So there's a lot of nice tie-ins into the early MCU movies. Like, there was a guy that was working with Ironmonger in the first Iron Man that shows up in this movie, and lots of other really cool Easter eggs. And let me start off by saying that the first 30 minutes of the movie is straight up hilarious comedy. I mean, Peter wanting to go on vacation, he's trying to impress MJ, and Flash Thompson is dogging him, and there's this other guy that's a rival that wants to be with MJ too, and Tony gives Peter this technology that gives him basically control of drones that could strike or kill someone. And he accidentally says, yeah, let's go after this guy, and a drone happens. There's a lot of really funny stuff happened in the first quarter of the movie. And then the danger happens, and then he meets up with Quentin Beck, and Quentin Beck is convincing him that he's on their side. He even convinces S.H.I.E.L.D., Fury and Maria Hill, that he's working with them too. That's another thing. In the trailers, like, they talk about the multiverse. He's not part of the multiverse. He's not from another Earth. He's from Earth, the Earth that they live on. That was part of his illusion, his deception. So even though the multiverse might exist, they haven't introduced it yet. I really like how they set up Mysterio as a villain, because he was sympathetic at first, because he was one of the victims of Tony Stark's tirade. And even though Tony wasn't a bad guy, there was a lot of things done to get him into the position that he was. And there were people that suffered because of it. But a lot of that stuff isn't talked about in the Iron Man movies because of the fact that they're Iron Man movies. But it takes another movie to say, well, you know, this is what Tony Stark did. He's not such a great guy, or he wasn't such a great guy, or whatever it is. You still root for Tony Stark, but you also see the plight of other people as well. And the fact that they made him a sympathetic villain was really good, because they could have just made him like a special effects master that's just trying to get something over on the world, and there was nothing much to him. But I think they developed his character really well. And Peter is Peter. Peter's awesome. You know, Tom Holland does a really good job as Spider-Man, like he's been doing, like he did in Civil War, like he did in Homecoming, like he did in Infinity War and Endgame. Aunt May, what can I say about Marissa Tomei? She's 50-something years old, but she looks like she's in her 20s or 30s. She really convinces you that she's the main support for Peter. Like, she's his moral compass, she's his mental guide, and she's very wise. And she also relates to him very well, because she's not an old woman. She's one generation above him, not two or three or whatever. And I think that works for this type of movie, for the Aunt May that they're portraying. Because as much as I loved Aunt May in Sam Raimi movies, I think a younger Aunt May works well because of the fact that Peter's younger. It was always curious to me how Peter Parker's in high school and he lives with his Aunt May, who's like 70 or 80-something years old. Unless she's his great aunt. I think that was canon in some of the comics, but not all of them. And then you have Happy Hogan, who apparently had a fling with Aunt May, and he's in love with her, and there was a bit of comedy there. And this movie was, in its heart, a comedy, but it also really did a lot of other things well. It did action really well. There's a scene where Peter has to fight a bunch of drones, and the fight choreography, the stunt work, the effects, I mean, they were just top notch. I mean, I was watching the scenes going, oh my God, you know, that's awesome. And the scenes with Mysterio, they were really spellbinding, where he was doing all his illusions and Peter didn't know what he was seeing. And I like the scene at the end where he ends up outsmarting him, because you see Mysterio on the ground. You're thinking that that's the real Mysterio, but Peter knows, because Mysterio is standing right next to him. You just can't see him, but he shoots a gun and he stops him, and the bullet bounces off and it hits him and he dies. You can't get one over on Peter. Even though he seems naive, he's still really smart, and he has a spider sense. And it's kind of funny, they called it the Peter Tingle in the movie, and he kept saying, don't call it that, please don't call it that. But I'm sure that'll be developed later. They'll call it the spider sense or whatever. The only thing that I'm not really sold on in this franchise is MJ. She said her friends call her MJ, but she's not Mary Jane. She's not going to replace Mary Jane. She's just an early love interest. He's still in high school. In the comics, he didn't meet Mary Jane until he was older. He didn't even meet Gwen Stacy in this universe yet. So I think we still have a while before we'll actually get to see the real MJ, Mary Jane. And another thing that I liked is that they developed Betty Brant a little more, because you saw a little snippet of her in Homecoming where she's doing a newscast for the high school, and that was pretty much it. That was all you got to see of Betty Brant. But she actually went on vacation with him. There was a love story interest between Ned, Peter's best friend, and Betty Brant. And that was really cool to see. You know, it's always great when they develop characters that are from the comics a bit more in these universes. Okay, I love this movie. I think, to me, it's probably the best live-action Spider-Man so far. And that's saying a lot, because I'm a big fan of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, especially Spider-Man 2.1, the extended cut. I mean, it's such a great movie, but I think after seeing Far From Home, I think it's the best one so far. And I also did a review for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie, and I liked that movie a lot too, but I think this one edges out both the animated movie and Spider-Man 2. It was just done really well. I think they found their footing after Homecoming, because Homecoming was a good movie, but it wasn't a great movie. It had great characters. Like Michael Keaton was a great character as Vulture. Tom Holland was a great Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And they were introducing a lot of other characters. But they really did well with continuing those characters in this movie, even though you don't see Michael Keaton in this movie, but still. Ned was a better character in this movie. You got to see more of Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and that was a great character. You saw more of Flash Thompson, and you got to see more of Aunt May and Happy Hogan. And also the action scenes were done really well. They were very frenetic, but not to the point where you couldn't tell what was going on. I really liked how the story wrapped up, because even though Mysterio was kind of a sympathetic villain, where Spider-Man could see where he was coming from, but he said, well, you know, you can't just kill people. The end credit scenes are awesome too. Let me talk about that for a little bit. The mid-credit sequence, a lot of people are talking about it, and yes, it was really awesome, because who else could play J. Jonah Jameson as well or better than J.K. Simmons did in the Sam Raimi universe? I don't think anyone. So the answer is, get J.K. Simmons back. And they did. For the mid-credit sequence, they got him in this new story where Mysterio shot this video and he doctored it to show that Spider-Man was controlling the drones, and he was the one that was killing everyone. And he made it out so that Mysterio was the victim. And also at the end of the video, he revealed that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. So it was a very big, like, and it was also the beginning of how J. Jonah Jameson also saw Spider-Man as a villain. So all throughout, like, the movies, the other movies, you think, okay, J. Jonah Jameson hates Spider-Man. We get it, but we don't really understand why. But that mid-credit sequence, you could really see why. Because to someone that doesn't know Spider-Man, or know Peter Parker, or know much about him looking from the outside, seeing that video of him attacking Mysterio and supposedly he controls the drones or whatever, you could see how some people could think, well, he's a public menace. So if that's the first thing that J. Jonah Jameson sees about Spider-Man, then of course he's going to be like, well, he's a bad guy. So, and that's why all throughout Spider-Man's career, he's always trying to prove himself, because of the ire that J. Jonah Jameson has for him. So that was really effective, and seeing J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson again was a fan's delight. And there was one other really cool reveal at the end of the credits. Maria Hill and Nick Fury were actually Skrulls in disguise, and Nick Fury is actually on the Skrull ship, and he's communicating with them from there, but he's chilling, relaxing. He's in like shorts and a t-shirt, and it's like, oh, you guys handle it or whatever. And there was a really funny moment in the car with head of the Skrulls and the female that was disguised as Maria Hill. And that was another really cool like little twist. I mean, it can't top the twist with Mysterio at the end, but it was a funny twist. It wasn't that much of a dramatic twist that the other one was. But this is a great follow-up to Homecoming. It's a great end cap to Phase 3 of the MCU. And I loved Endgame, and I loved this movie just as much as I loved Endgame. A+. What else can I say? It's a great movie. I definitely recommend anyone that's into the MCU, anyone that's a Spider-Man fan, to go see this movie. It's great. I really don't have much of anything bad to say about it. I don't think I have anything bad to say about it. I'm going to go be seeing it again. I'm definitely going to go see it again. And I'm definitely going to own it when it comes out on disc. And I was really excited to see this. And I was even more excited going out of the theater. I couldn't wait actually to get tickets to go see it again. That's how good this movie is. So that's how I see it. It's awesome. Go see it, please. I highly recommend it. And that's all I can say for this week. That's all. Take care. Thanks, guys. Please like, subscribe, share. Thank you for your support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for commenting. And helping my channel grow. And that's about it for now. Take care. Bye-bye. Whenever there's a hang-up, you find Spidey.